Okay, so the next video I wanted to make is kind of open-ended, but it is something I really do think about a lot. Um, but again, it's like I don't really know the answer to it, um, and there's a lot of different ways to think about it. So just present the idea and then just try to talk about it a little bit. Like, where do the question, I guess, is like, where does like meaningful and lasting and change in society come from? Like, is it through just happen? Do societies just evolve over time? Um, is it given? Are things changed by people in power? You know, forcefully or through legislation or something like that. Um, or is it through like movements and social movements and groups and activism and things like that? So the formal political process, people vote, like, so what are all the dynamics? So, and then, so the next question on top of that is, how do we, uh, as individuals, and then as interested kind of citizens, and then when we group up together, how do we as individuals and then as groups um, kind of affect society in ways that uh, maximize like quality of life for the maximum number of people, basically. I know it's not phrased perfectly, but the meaning is there. So, um, yeah, how do we get to that? How do we do that? You know, right now, what we put our, I guess, faith into. Some people are, disaffected from it and whatever. A lot of people don't vote, whatever. Um, there's a lot of flaws in the system, but the one traditional way is, voting and the electoral system that we have in our democratic republic, whatever you want to call it. So there are powerful institutions out there like corporations and the different levels of the government. Powerful groups, a lot of resources out there, and powerful individuals, a lot of money and resources. And so, how do we protect our rights as communities and individuals with less resources and power and things like that, and make it so that we can kind of grow as individuals and families and communities, and the corporations and powerful interests don't just take everything and just kind of do what they want with it. How do we kind of equalize things and make things better? You know, I think it would be better to equalize things in ways in terms of resources and the way things are. And people kind of argue that, like, well, isn't that taking away from rich people, whatever, whatever? And that's kind of like putting some sort of like innate logic in the system. Like, to me, it's like, if people say, oh, they earn this, whatever, and blah blah blah. I mean, these people are in the right place at the right time and have the right mind and drive and all the right things to accomplish what they did. And I don't want to take their individuality out of it completely or anything like that, but just a little bit. You know, there are always going to be people in these places to invent things when the time was right. Um, or else, where would we be? So yes, there are special people out there who get their ideas right out there to the forefront, and then there are many other of us out there as well who have a lot of potential but don't push our ideas at the right time in the right ways and so on and so forth. And maybe we didn't have as big ideas either or whatever, regardless. And then there's people, tons of us, that are just trying to live and get by and so forth. And they don't need to have advanced, kind of worldviews and concepts of the world and ideas for how to progress and invent things to, improve our quality of life and things like that. this everybody still has a right to live. So how do we make things equitable and ethical and build a society on that and those kind of principles and stuff like that? The traditional, so we always celebrate that in the Western world and things like that. We have a democracy. We don't have dictatorship. We have division of powers. We have accountability. However, that seems to always continue to be tested. And when the elections play out, like the major ones, like that's coming up within the next year, it's like, well, we already know what certain states are going to be blue and certain states are going to be red, and it comes down to a few different states. And if you don't live in one of those states, it's like, yeah, okay, we're going to vote. Like, my state's a blue state. I don't know, I already know I'm going to go and vote, but even if I don't vote, the state's going to go blue, So it's like, all right, regardless. But then even if you get, I don't know, it just feels like there has to be more, regardless, than just going out and voting. And there certainly is. And like, there's the awareness of the issues. There's, getting down to the real level of policy and the development of it, and how to understand it and group with other people and get it to the government and really think about that and understand, government regulations and all these things that conservatives like to complain about, um, and the pros and cons of them, and in a much more intricate way that's not talked about in the mainstream media. We can just understand these issues on a deeper level so that we won't be able to be fooled. And that's the kind of hope in the spread of information, which we can do now with the internet and stuff like that. So like that's how I get information, is just a lot looking things up and stuff like that. And I can do a lot more of it. And I think a lot of us can. And I think that there's real hope in that. And then from there, along with that comes, action. Like we can't just wait for, like, it's, we always should have an eye on what's going on, because this is part of the system that we can't affect, the government. And we're always we're always stakeholders in what all these corporations are doing, because they control all the resources and have all this money and stuff like that. And we're always trying to fight to pay lower taxes, so that programs that a lot of people rely on, threaten to get cut, because they don't want to pay as high in taxes and so on and so forth. It's a constant struggle going on. So if people are less aware of this going on, they'll be susceptible to these things and won't be able to fight back. So information is important. We have to spread it. It's important to talk about things. And, even if you're just kind of saying the same thing as somebody else, but you believe it, you could be saying that right then, or you could be doing something else. So if it's important to say, it's, rather than even just being quiet, doing something else, and talk about it because it's important. So, and then to the level of action. And I think things, creativity. I think the way I think of it too is, I don't know, like a lot of social groups, not that I'm part of many, or, whatever, but I like to research and see what groups are into, and they have a lot of like first-hand experience. They're trying to push things through on the front line. Go to protests. They'll have newsletters. They'll have meetings. They'll do things. Whatever they feel they need to push whatever issues that they're focused on. But it seems to me that there's a lot of these issues are very interconnected and interrelated. It's a lot of like marginalized groups in society who have to kind of like band together, or groups just band together to fight for people that are, not heard, or they feel like that aren't heard. Like people that have been, that are in prison, that, are innocent. There's so many people that are kind of even suffering in our country, in the richest country in the world. So we have to kind of question, I feel, all these things that are going on, and realize that so many of us have common interests in this country. And I think we want to have better lives, at least for ourselves. And even if we're only interested in ourselves, which I think most of us are interested in, at least the general well-being of those that we've come to like and know around us, most of us I think are like that. And then even if we're just worried about ourselves, it's good for those around us to be well as well. So it's like always like kind of like self-reinforcing in that way. So we always have this interest in improving things and improving our own quality of life and those around us. Um, you know, I don't know. Should always kind of be thinking about it. I feel. I don't think we're doomed. I just think that we kind of have these systems, these like old systems, and then newer systems that are flawed and that are put on top of it. You know, the modern industrial economic system, you know, capitalism, and you know, the system of inequality, and things have kind of become more unequal over time. Once again, it's like fluctuated, and you know, now there's more like consolidation in the media and all kinds of things. So people are more fractured and broken apart. Wages have stagnated for, you know, 30 years or so, you know, however many years, something like that. You know, people feel like held down and can't kind of live life the way they were taught it was supposed to be, but they don't really know it. And so that's what I see when I see like a lot of young people. It's like their pride's taken away and they're just trying to live, and then they want to have fun and they want to have a life. But, you know, what do they do? So, I don't know, but we always still got to be aware. So, like, even if, you know, there were things happening in the background and um, kind of people fell behind in the struggle and became less aware, we got to get it back, because what happens if things become more unequal and we lose even more power and communities lose even more power? And it's like, I don't know. So again, like I kind of said at the beginning, it's it's open ended, but I don't want to just put faith in like, oh well, even if we're raising awareness, like who's going to get elected, and even if we're focusing on swing states in the next election, and we're focusing on midterm elections, like we should, yes, of course, as people in democracy, be doing all this, you know, as aware as possible about what goes into our society and what's important, and all the resources and all the decisions, and you know, education and healthcare and all these things. And hopefully we can just increase our overall general awareness and have more um, informed conversations and advance them, so we're having more detailed conversations about what we can actually do, and then putting things in place and improve things for like maximum number of people. Let's, you know, let's just do it. Let's keep going.